questions persist regarding the extent of involvement of Princesses Eugenie and Beatrice in their parents' controversial associations, particularly concerning Jeffrey Epstein. Royal biographer Andrew Lowney has asserted that the public narrative surrounding the two princesses is actively misleading, suggesting they were far more enmeshed in these activities than has been previously presented. This viewpoint challenges a prevailing effort to portray the sisters as unwitting victims of circumstances beyond their control. Mr. Lowney, author of entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York, a biography published by HarperCollins on August 14, 2025, has publicly stated his belief that a deliberate campaign aims to shield the princesses from deserved scrutiny. Speaking in early February 2026, the author firmly articulated, "They weren't 5-year-old girls when they were taken to see Epstein. They were grown-ups. They were grown-ups. There's a big campaign say they are innocents caught up in the shellfire. But they're not. They're deeply involved." These remarks stem from 4 years of extensive research, incorporating over 300 interviews, court documents, and Freedom of Information disclosures, lending significant weight to his assertions. The book garnered notable critical attention, with the Daily Mail describing it as the most devastating royal biography ever written, and the Sunday Times remarking that it made Prince Harry's spare appear positively restrained. Such commendations underscore the rigorous nature of Lowney's work and the gravity of his claims. Princess Beatrice, aged 37, and Princess Eugenie, aged 35, are the daughters of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew, Duke of York, and Sarah Ferguson. Prince Andrew was stripped of all titles and honours by King Charles. While neither sister holds a working royal role nor represents the monarch, both have retained their HRH titles. This retention is protected under King George V's Letters Patent of 1917, confirming that their entitlement these titles remains unaffected by their father's changed status. The central figure in these unfolding events is Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender. The question of the princess's involvement has gained significant traction following multiple waves of document releases by the US Department of Justice throughout late 2025 and in January 2026. The Department of Justice made public a substantial volume of documents tied Epstein. Hundreds of thousands of these records were released on December 19, 2025, under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, followed by an additional approximately 3 million documents on January 30, 2026. CNN's reporting on February 16 and 17, 2026, indicated that Beatrice and Eugenie are mentioned by name hundreds of times within these millions of pages. At least one of these references is characterized as highly embarrassing, directly pertaining Eugenie's private life. A specific documented encounter detailed within the DOJ files has emerged as a critical element of Mr. Lowney's argument. Records show that on July 27, 2009, just 5 days after Epstein was released from a Florida prison, where he had served 13 months of an 18-month sentence for soliciting prostitution from a minor, Sarah Ferguson traveled Palm Beach to meet him. An email exchange within the documents confirms the arranged meeting. Epstein messaged Ferguson inquiring about her location, which she replied approximately 90 minutes later that she was in Miami and en route to meet him for lunch at 12:30 p.m. When Epstein offered send a car, Ferguson declined but requested the address, explicitly stating, "It will be myself, Beatrice, and Eugenie." At the time of this lunch, Beatrice was 20 years old and Eugenie was 19. Both were considered adults, and both participated in a meal with an individual who had recently been incarcerated for sex crimes against a minor. This documented fact forms the core of Lowney's assertion and is presented as an incident that cannot be dismissed due to the princess's youth. Conversely, a sympathetic perspective regarding Beatrice and Eugenie's position has been voiced by several credible figures. Royal author Robert Jobson highlighted that it is uncommon for individuals aged 19 and 20 question an invitation from their parents visit a friend. Jobson further noted that both princesses are now mothers themselves, suggesting they would find the current revelations appalling. Multiple sources have indicated that the sisters were genuinely unaware of the full scope of their parents' dealings with Epstein. Russell Myers, royal editor for The Mirror, acknowledged the existence of real public sympathy for the princesses. However, Even Myers conceded that questions persist both within Buckingham Palace and among the wider public regarding whether Beatrice and Eugenie could have expressed concerns, particularly given their proximity to Epstein's world even after his criminal conviction. This inherent tension between fostering public sympathy and demanding accountability remains a complex issue without clear resolution. The sisters' situation has been further complicated by additional details concerning their correspondence with Epstein, as meticulously laid out in the DOJ documents. Emails attributed Sarah Ferguson illustrate her direct involvement in organizing the Palm Beach visit mere days following Epstein's release from prison. Other messages reveal her discussing her daughter's personal lives in direct communication with the convicted sex offender. In one specific exchange, Epstein inquired if there was a possibility of Ferguson greeting a redacted vizier arriving in London, which Ferguson reportedly replied that Beatrice was in London with her father. These documented exchanges contradict earlier statements made by Ferguson's spokesperson, who had previously informed the press that she severed all ties with Epstein immediately upon understanding the full extent of the allegations against him. The documents, according reports, present a different sequence of events. Furthermore, Christmas cards, sent by Prince Andrew Epstein in both 2011 and 2012, contained photographs of Beatrice and Eugenie. This information directly challenges Prince Andrew's public declaration during his November 2019 BBC Newsnight interview, where he stated he had no contact with Epstein after their photographed meeting in Central Park on December 5, 2010. The existence of these Christmas cards, featuring his daughters, sent in the years following that meeting, suggests otherwise. As of February 2026, both Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie have maintained public silence on these matters. Reports indicate that offers for tell-all interviews have been extended by media entities such as Oprah Winfrey and Netflix. However, sources close to the family suggest neither woman is currently prepared to publicly criticize her parents on camera, particularly Princess Beatrice, whose personal inclination is reportedly against such public confrontations. Behind the scenes, multiple royal insiders describe both princesses as feeling deceived, with a growing division emerging between them and their parents. The new couple, referring their parents, was initially known as the catastrophe, and the princesses reportedly found the incident unfair. The accumulating evidence against their father, including irrefutable cases, makes his repeated claims of innocence increasingly untenable. Prince Andrew himself was formally relocated from Royal Lodge in Windsor, with a removal van observed departing the property on February 4, 2026, as he moved the Sandringham estate. Buckingham Palace has publicly affirmed that King Charles is prepared to support British police in their ongoing investigation in Prince Andrew. Royal Edir Russell Myers characterised the palace's public stance as a seminal moment in the institution's approach, managing its most disgraced member. No charges have been filed against Beatrice or Eugenie, and Mr. Loney has not publicly specified the legal implications of what he means by deeply involved. However, his argument primarily addresses a carefully constructed narrative rather than a courtroom proceeding. Lowney challenges the perception that two women who were adults during the Palm Beach lunch, whose images were included in communications between their parents and a convicted sex offender for years, and whose names appear hundreds of times in the Department of Justice's own files, can somehow remain entirely separate from the unfolding SRI. The ultimate sustainability of this narrative will depend directly on the degree of scrutiny the public is willing to apply a royal family that has historically preferred operate without such intense examination.